back to the Young Minds Podcast. This is episode 6 of the podcast, and I can't believe we're actually on 6 episodes already. It's pretty crazy. I hope you enjoyed the last one with Cody. I know I did, and I hope that those of you that have already listened to it, that you've gotten some encouragement out of it. And I thought I would maybe jump into a funny story that I heard, the other day at church from the pastor, just to kind of get warmed up a little bit. But his name is Pastor Robbie, and it was so funny. He was up there, and we're talking about, because he's going through the book of Luke, and because for Christmas, and he's talking about how, like, imagine Mary, like, having to just be pretty much alone, like, there's no doctors, no nothing, like, right, with modern medicine, right? Like, you're having to give birth in, like, I think he said, like, a cave, right? Can you imagine that? So, he was talking about how Joseph was such a integral part of, being there for her, and he was talking about how you wouldn't want him in the room, if you want a stable husband or whatever, to be during a pregnancy, because he said when his oldest son was born, they things were about to go down. His wife was about to give labor, and he passed out, right? That's pretty normal. A lot of times that happens. Well, it's where he passed out, which was the funny part. He passed out on his wife, and there went IVs, and everything else just went everywhere. I mean, it was so funny to hear him explain it. And then he wakes up, and he said he watched them, he watched his wife give birth on the floor, because they don't, at that point, of course, they don't care about the husband. They care about the wife and what's going on with the baby and her. So I thought it was so funny. It was like made us burst out laughing. But to jump in today's topic, it is going to be about trusting the Lord when life gets hard, because there's so many times, I'm sure, in your life, or I know in my life, that things can get hard, but we have to learn to trust the Lord. And we'll also dive into a little bit about, like, because I know sometimes you might veer away from the Lord, but you have to get back on track. But just some verses that I found while I was researching a little bit was 1 Chronicles 16:11. Seek the Lord and His strength, and seek His presence continually. Now, like, for me, this kind of means, like, just seek Him no matter what, just regardless of what is going on, regardless of, like, it's like stress or whatever that may be, or whatever that situation that you're trying to figure out. Just make sure that you're seeking Him in that situation, because He can pull you out of it, and He can take you out of any situation. And even think about this too. So if like, trying to find the words. So, like, if you're in a tough situation and you're asking God to pull you out of it, and He doesn't, I thought I'd mention this because it just popped up. Like, it may be the situation you need to be in, because I've been through tough situations where, I wasn't sure, like, if I was going to be able to get out of it. Well, eventually I did get out of it, but I was in it for that amount of time, however long He wanted me to be in it, so that way I could learn something from it and then help others or help myself. So think about it that way. Think about the situation, and then think about what it could do for you and what you could learn from that situation. And I think it's just so important that we have to seek Him no matter what, even if it's the smallest thing. Like, if you're, doubting, or if you're, like I said, if you're stressed, if you're, angry, you're sad, seek Him no matter what. Because it just, life is going to throw some strange things at you. Like today, I just had a, big old test, because, it's coming up, Christmas break is coming and everything, and with the Christmas season comes tests. Is like, the school's like, hey, instead of giving you gifts, we're going to give you giant tests to take at the end of the semester. And it's like, well, thank you, school system, that's just absolutely amazing. So, and that could put a lot of stress on a lot of us. For me, I just kind of go for it. I study a little bit, not much, because there's not much you can study there when it comes to those tests, to be honest with you. But it just, you have to seek Him. And I get, sometimes you may be mad at God or whatever it may be, but please just keep seeking Him and keep doing, and keep reading His Word, especially during those times of like hardship. Or read any time, but especially during those times of hardship and whatever the situation may be, please, I would suggest, and I know, and I'm like bad about this too, so something, because I'm not the best about reading or, going into my Bible. I mean, I can tell you that all day long to, go read more and stuff like that, but I will be the first to admit, I try my hardest to get in the Word every day, but it just doesn't happen, and I need to make that more of a priority. But that's one thing I think that you could do. I mean, you could do that. You need to do it every day. However, and again, I'm saying this for myself as well, but especially during those times of hardship, you definitely want to dive into the Word, because your mind can go into some crazy places, and this kind of brings us to like the next point I have, and I pulled the verse, and it's a really popular one, Proverbs 3, 5 through 6. Trust the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. And the reason why I said, and there's more to this, I'm sorry, and in your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make straight your paths. Now, because the way I see it is, if you're going through that, whatever situation might be, let's just say loss of a loved one, right? You may be angry at God, you're saying, why did you take this person away from me, or whatever it may be, right? And you may, try to lean on your own understanding and don't follow what God has to say, and that could lead into some really, a really, really bad situation. You may be in a worse situation than what you're in. And I understand, you're angry and you want to figure out a solution really quick or whatever, and there may not be a solution, but you want to do it your way, because, sometimes God's way is, slower than you'd like it. But, you have to just continue to follow Him and acknowledge Him, and that our understanding is far worse than the Lord's understanding of things. And remember, He always has a plan for us, and it's written already. So why would you want to break that plan and go off on your own and just, because I know one common thing that they say, at least in my church, is, you follow God's plan, and then it starts to get, your life starts to get pretty good, right? And then all of a sudden, you're like, I think, it's kind of like, I guess, a good example of that, you're tied to a rope, right? Think of a guy, he's got a rope around his waist, and then they slowly let a little of, they give him more slack, right? So it's kind of what you're doing with, the Lord's plan, I guess, in a way. You're like, I can go on my own. I can, go on my own understanding and do this. And then, you've been given too much, or you've went too far, and look where you've ended up. So you always just trust Him and acknowledge Him, and He will always straighten your paths, and trust me, it may not make sense, if you're following Him, it may not make sense right then, but trust me, and it may take years, and me and Ben were talking about this on our latest, or on when we were talking for his podcast, is, that it takes a while, to fully understand and embrace. Sometimes it can take a while to embrace Him as your Lord and Savior. For me, it took, 15, 16 years to truly figure that out. And, but it's been the most rewarding and greatest thing I've ever done. And sure, has it been hard at times? Yes, it has, but you have to just, not just look at these verses, but, rely on Him and trust in Him that He's going to pull you out of that situation and whatever it may be. And, just some, I guess, personal things that have happened, I was looking at it, because, and again, this is about me, but it didn't happen to me, I guess. Well, you'll see what I mean. I don't know how to explain it. It's so, when I was born, my parents had to put their trust in the Lord, because I'm sure they were frightened, they were scared. And, if you didn't know my testimony a little bit, I've kind of said it every, sprinkled some in here and there. But, I had really bad medical problems. And, it was scary. They didn't think I was going to be able to walk and talk and whatever it may be, And on top of that, the doctors, of course, they were looking at it as a job or worldly perspective. So they were saying, hey, if he doesn't, improve and goes back on the vent, you might as well just cut the cord. Well, of course, my parents didn't want to do that. Of course not. And thank goodness the Lord was looking over me for that point, and I'm here speaking to you right now. But, that was just one instance where they had to trust the Lord and that he was going to do all that he could to make sure I got home. And just, there's so many other instances, like my grandma, she's had constant kidney stuff going on and things like that. It's not recent, but, it's been a couple years ago. But, the fact that she's still here and she's still able to do things with us, after multiple times of having, all that go on is just absolutely amazing. And I know that's just medical stuff. There's situations like up here, that might be mental, maybe, something physical happened, like, or whatever it may be. But whatever the situation, what I'm trying to say is, whatever the situation, always trust in him. Never, or I know it can be tempting to deviate, but that's just the enemy trying to tell you, hey, I've got something quote unquote better for you over here, when in reality he doesn't. It's a trick, because our own understanding, we're flawed as humans and we're going to make mistakes. That's just a fact. But we have to follow him and seek him always and make sure that, we're diving in his word daily. And again, like I said, that's just something for me. I know, because, again, I don't know how every youth, especially because that is my target audience, how much they read, but I do know that we're all busy, especially, especially with high school. Things have gotten so busy. I'm doing things just about every week. But even if you read a chapter, sure, you probably want to read more, but if you just read a chapter, and, maybe you could jot some notes down about it, and to see if you can figure out what you've learned, and even if you have to stay on it for a few days, to get that message out of it, then do that. And again, like I said, I'm saying this for myself as well, because I'm just as guilty as whoever may be taking the same thing. I should be taking notes more, and I should be reading more, and I know that's a fact. I shouldn't be letting my busy schedule get in the way of, taking time to read the Bible and hearing God's word, and what he wants to say to me. And I understand, trust me, but I do get it. Things get hectic, they get scary, or they may, and they just get busy, right? But through all of that, either stress or whatever it may be, just learn to seek him, and even in the good times too, seek him for for good things too, and praise him for the stuff that he's been able to allow you to do. There's been so many things that I didn't think I'd be able to do, in 2022. I got saved and baptized in the same year, and then I, doing this podcast, started a nonprofit, or I'm working on a nonprofit, and, I've had some great times with some great friends, and, it's been such a rewarding journey, really, so far, and it's been less than a year. When that comes up, that's going to be awesome, because I got some good things planned. But I think that's all that I wanted to cover, and I just want to say that look out for on Ben Shelby's podcast. There's going to be an episode between me and him, talking a little bit about my story, and we're just going through some of the motions about how to help our youth, and I hope you tune into that. And also, I've got a really exciting guest coming on the next episode, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. Thank you so much for listening, and see you in episode 7.